Hello crafters! Well, today it is time for another sewing project. I kind of go in phases, sometimes I'm really inspired to sew and I'm willing to put in time, and other times I'm just like, I want an easier project. So I don't know, maybe you're like me and you cycle through your inspiration sources. But I was looking back at some of my videos from last year, and one of our most popular videos here was our video on making a prairie style, or kind of like cottagecore, cottage style dress. And I made one this fall. I made it out of this really fun plaid cotton fabric and puff sleeves and like kind of flowy skirt, and kind of prairie-ish inspired, very kind of romantic flowiness, but still pretty straightforward. I used a pretty simple pattern for it, and although the project took time, I really liked the results. I felt really satisfied with it. It felt like a good solid garment, and I wore it on some fun adventures. You might remember my pumpkin picking adventure. That video, I'll link down below. That was a fun project, and I really like the garment that I got from that. So I've been thinking, okay, maybe I want to do some other things along those lines. Kind of a cottagecore inspired project. Only problem is it's now kind of the grumpy days of winter, and although it's actually been a pretty mild winter where I am, I really can't complain. The things that I really want to wear when I get up in the morning is I'd rather wear a sweatshirt or stay in my PJs. That's just kind of what I'd rather do. Maybe it's like hibernation season or something. I just want to be cozy, right? So that got me thinking, what if I created a dress that had all the cozy, fuzzy, warm characteristics of like a nightgown or warm PJs, but was actually a dress? Nightgown, dress. Put them together. Is that even possible? Well, I remembered a pattern that I had tried, oh gosh, a year or so ago, that, let me show you. It's a pretty straightforward pattern. I got it on kind of the easy sew pattern rack, at Joann's. And I'll show you this up close a little bit more here in a moment. But it's a dolman sleeve dress with an elastic neckline, and you could do like a straight kind of sheath dress, or you could do a dress with like layers and ruffles of fabric. This is a super basic pattern idea, so I thought, what if I took this, and specifically kind of the straight dress, make it out of flannel, so it's warm, fuzzy, and cozy, right? But maybe make it long, so it kind of has like a cottagecore kind of peasant style to it, but it would also be warm and cozy. Okay, so that's my inspiration source. Let's dive in. I'll show you the fabric, I'll show you the pattern directions up close a little bit more, and let's see if we can do this. Is it going to be a nightgown? Is it going to be a dress? Could we make it both? Let's find out. Let's dive in. Okay, let's take a closer look at our pattern and how I'm going to change it up a little bit to suit my needs today. All right, so I'm going to be looking at this dress pattern. The top of each dress is the same. It's just the skirt of this one has tiers. This one is basically just one long piece that extends to knee length. I'm actually hoping to basically just extend the body of the dress until it's about a maxi length. And let's take a look at our pattern over here. You can kind of tell those are the two pieces of the dress, the front and the back. And then you need some sleeves, and that's basically what I'm going to use for this dress. I'm also going to need some single fold bias tape, and I'm going to need some elastic to scrunch the end of the sleeves and the neckline as well. And I think I might actually extend the sleeves a little bit. I want to see if I can make those like more of a long sleeve, and then have more of that maxi length to add it to the warm and cozy list as much as possible. But let's see. Looking at the cutout directions here, I'm basically going to be doing this, I think. Let me get out my fabric
and get to some pinning and some cutting. It's not a lot to cut out, so hopefully it won't take me forever. Fingers crossed. Okay guys, I'm pinning my pattern pieces to the fabric, but I just wanted to show you something that I found really challenging with this pattern. The pattern is really basic, but this neckline detail stuff is just really hard to read because there's a line for each size where you would cut off the fabric for the neckline, and then there's another line for each size showing where you could fold over the neckline fabric to form a casing for elastic going around the neck. And it was just really hard to figure out what was what. I actually ended cutting down the pattern a little bit. This is the medium cut line, and normally there'd be like a large and an extra large above that. Normally I just kind of fold over the pattern a little bit to get to the size I want, but this time I had to cut it down to my size because I just couldn't figure out what line was what. To help me, I ended up, gosh, going all the way down the side of the garment to try to figure out, oh, okay, what does the cut line actually look like for each size? And then where on earth is the fold line for each size? Well, you know what? I didn't even bother with that. Instead of folding under the neckline, I'm just gonna sew some single fold bias tape around that neckline, and I'm gonna use that as a tube to insert elastic into. So yeah, save yourself some headache and don't get messed up on this part like I did the first time. Definitely try to figure out where the right cut line is before you cut it. Okay, let's get to pinning and sewing. Well, pinning and cutting first. Here we go. Okay, well, I've cut out the two body pieces of the dress. I don't know. It's the top of the dress into the skirt. You can tell that I kind of just started at that little extend here, double line, and then from there I used my yardstick and just kind of flared the skirt out a little bit and then lengthened it. I kind of did a guesstimate of how long I need it to be to make it maxi length and added a little extra. Hopefully I added enough. And then once I had kind of created that extension for one piece, I then kind of used that as a pattern to help trace that extension onto the next piece. So hopefully I've made the skirt long enough. Hopefully I've made it a little fuller, but not too weird. I don't know. It looks pretty good so far. Oh, and of course these pieces are folded in half. So these pattern pieces are folded or cut on the fold. So these will open up into the front and back of the dress. Now let's take a peek at the sleeves. I kind of did a similar thing. I put the pattern piece kind of on my body and just kind of figured out using the underarm corner there, just tried to guess about how much length I needed to add to the sleeve and added that on and then cut them out. So those are the main pieces that we need. So I'm going to dive in, take a peek at the pattern and see what we have to do next. Okay, well, let's take a look at our pattern. Now, just a note, you guys, now that I have all my pieces cut out, I've realized that about 4 yards was just about perfect. Like, I didn't have much extra fabric after extending these pieces of the dress quite a bit. And then I, of course, extended, this is the picture of the sleeve, I extended that quite a bit. And I'm using about a size medium, and I'm about 5'5". So if you're going for a bigger or a taller size, you might want to have more than 4 yards, because that was just about right for the extensions that I was doing. And as we all know, always better to have a little bit more fabric than not enough. Hey, well, let's check out what we're doing next. Okay, so we're going to be sewing the 2 side seams of our front and back pieces of the dress. Note that the top necklines don't match up, and that's okay because we're going to be adding the dolman sleeves, which are going to help form the top part of the shoulder. And then they're also suggesting that I sew the sleeves into tubes. They also want me to hem them, but I'm not going to do that yet. I want to attach those to the dress before I hem them and before I add the elastic around the cuff of those sleeves, because I don't know if they're long enough yet. Okay, so sewing up the side of the dress, sewing up the sleeves. Oops, let's find the next page here. All right, and then I'll be trying to sew those sleeves into the dress. So hopefully I'll kind of get through step 7 here and then show you how it's looking. Okay guys, just a note, I'm about to sew these sleeves up, and here's something that I messed up like the first couple times I tried this pattern. You want one sleeve of each orientation, so you want them to basically be, you know, you need mirror image sleeves. So if you pin them up and they perfectly match, try pinning them another way so that they are opposites, because yeah, notice how there's like one side of the sleeve is longer and one side is shorter. Like looking at the top, like see this, that's longer, and the back side is a little shorter. You need that to match up with the garment, because one front, I think the back of the garment is a little taller and the front piece of the garment is a little shorter. So you need the sleeve to be able to align with the garment, and you need one that does it for this side and you need one that does it for that side. And I know there are lots of better ways to say that, but just save yourself the trouble of making the mistakes that I've made. You're welcome. Okay, you guys, as you can see, we've got the body of the dress stitched up. We've got the side seam stitched closed there, and right there my dress is still inside out. And then I have a sleeve over here. It's stitched up. It's actually been turned right side out. Hey, where's the other sleeve? Well, I started pinning it into the armhole on this side. Let's take a peek. Okay, so if you looked inside the dress, I actually have the sleeve in here. So the sleeve is turned right side out. I want the right side of the dress fabric, which is inside, and the right side of the sleeve fabric to be together. They call it right sides together. So that's why I've got the sleeve on the inside. And then I'm just, I pinned it. I pinned it into the armhole. Let's see if we can get a little better look at that. Oh man. Yeah, you can see there's the bottom seam of the, or the side seam of the garment at the base of the armhole. I've pinned the sleeve into that hole. You're looking into the sleeve right there. And let's see, if we turned it out, let's see what that would look like. Well, of course, this would be inside out. But really, see? So once it's stitched on, it's gonna look like that. So we'll have our sleeve attached, and then the sleeve also adds to the shoulder of the dress. So I think I'm on the right track. Let me see if I can turn this back to the inside here without unpinning everything. Okay, so I'm going to keep that on the inside while I sew. And hey, you know, you'll know that you're getting the sleeves on the correct orientation if the edges match up. Like, so if this is the center, this is your side seam of the garment, the shorter edge of the sleeve needs to go with the front of the garment, and then the longer edge of the sleeve, remember one side was a little longer edge of the sleeve needs to go with the longer side of the garment, which is the back. So if they don't match up, like what happened the first time I tried this pattern, I couldn't figure out why the edges of the sleeves weren't matching the armhole. What's going on? I had sewn two sleeves that matched each other instead of being mirror images of each other. So one sleeve fit, the other didn't, and yeah, learn from my mistake. If it fits into the body of the garment, you got it right. So now I'm going to, oh boy, I know it's a little hard to see like this, but try it, it'll make sense. I've got to now, well, try not to unpin everything while I work, but now I'm gonna put this guy to the inside, right sides together, remember. Ooh. Gotta do some pinning. Trying to make sure you can see that. Gosh. All right. Okay, so I'm going to make sure the seam of the sleeve matches up with the side seam. That makes it easy. Got a good starting point. Right there. Okay, let's get a couple pins in there. Make sure it's all looking good. Okay, so then I'm gonna line up the front part of the dress with the sleeve front, and pin it along there. Line up the back part of the dress, the back part of the sleeve, pin it along there. So I'm gonna pin that sleeve in, sew it up, and the next time you see this, it's gonna look kind of like a dress. Woohoo! Whoa, it looks kind of like a dress. Yeah. All right. Well, we're on the right track, guys. So we've got the sleeves. We've got the body of the dress. The next step is to deal with the neckline. Second step, we got to do the cuffs on the sleeves and then hem the dress. So 3 big steps left. Basically, I might make a belt out of excess fabric. That would just be kind of extra. But let's look at the first step, which is the neck. I really want to do the neckline first because once I have that in place, I can try on the dress and I can measure the sleeves accurately. Now, the pattern suggests, well, they suggest taking the raw edge of the neck and, you know, these shoulders created by the sleeves, rolling under a tiny hem, and then rolling down another hem, like making like a tube in the fabric to insert the elastic in. You could totally do that. That is totally possible. That drives me nuts. I hate rolling little hems, especially on like curved seams. It just bugs me. So I'm using some bias tape, and let me show you the kind I got the thick stuff. Ooh, sorry. So this one is single fold, and it's going to be wide, and I'm actually going to stitch this to the inside of the neck hole. And once I have stitched on the top stitch and the bottom, like basically stitch this on to the inside, I'll make a tube using this instead of using the fabric of the garment to make the tube for the elastic. Okay, let's see this a little bit more up close. Got our neckline. I'm just going to show you really quickly how I would put the bias tape onto the neckline. I'll also link to one of my favorite tutorials so you can see it up close and maybe at like a slower pace. If you've never done this before, that will help. So I'll link to that. But my first step will be to kind of open up the bias tape a little bit, and I'm going to pin its top edge to the edge of my neckline, and I'm pinning it to the outside of the garment. And I'm going to do that all around the edge. And then I've got, after I pinned it all the way around, I've got this lovely little fold here at the top of the bias tape, and they call that the ditch, and you want to stitch in the ditch. So then you stitch in the ditch all the way around, and the bias tape will then be attached, sewn onto the outside of the garment. Now, let me just move my pins. Let me pretend that my pins are stitching. And now, of course, you wouldn't pin it like this for real, but I want them to hold the bias tape onto the neckline as if as if it were stitched. Let's pretend it's stitched on here. Next, after that, I can roll the bias tape to the inside of the garment and stitch it again. So here's what it would look like on the other side. You know, it's there. I'll pin that down and stitch kind of close to the edge, and that'll leave a really nice finished edge on the front, and then it'll give me this ring of bias tape around the neckline on the inside. Now, if I leave a little gap in my stitching, I will be able to insert some elastic into this tube that will be created by that bias tape, and that will give me the elastic neckline that the pattern's going for. So I'm going to pin this on the right way and stitch in the ditch. Once it's on, fold everything to the inside, stitch again, leaving a little gap for my elastic, and then I should have a neckline to show you. Yeah, it sounds complicated. It's not that complicated. Let's do some pinning and some stitching. And yeah, I'll see you in a minute. Okay, well, we got the bias tape around the neckline. Let's take a look. All right, well, you can't see it from the outside, but there it is on the inside. Nice finished edge. I like it. I also left a little gap in my stitching so that I can then put in some of this 1/4 inch elastic, thread it into that tube, scrunch it up, and then hopefully we'll get a kind of peasant style neckline. It'll be like, you know, a little scrunchy, a little stretchy, and it'll go, you know, roughly like that. I'm going to use, you could use a safety pin, attach it to the end of your elastic and just push it through the tube all the way around, and then I would recommend trying it on before you know, close up the ends of the elastic and stitch this closed. You want to definitely see how that fits. So I think that's my first step. Insert the elastic, try this on, and, you know, finagle the neckline until I like it. Then that should give me a chance to see about the length of the sleeves. So I kind of estimated, you know, how long to cut these out, so I got to double check on that. To finish the sleeves, I am going to just follow the directions. I'm going to roll under a little tiny hem and iron that down, and then kind of make a bigger hem, which will give me a tube. I got to make sure I make a tube big enough to insert a little more elastic, because these sleeves are finished basically in the same way as the neck. Sew a tube, put the elastic in, and scrunch it in a little bit to get that cute kind of puffed peasant sleeve kind of look. Well, as you can probably tell, it's getting pretty dark here in my apartment, so I think I'm going to keep working on this evening, but I'll have to show you the results tomorrow when the light is a little better. Let's see, elastic in the neckline, got to do that. Got to try it on. Gotta do the sleeves, and then, oh my goodness, there's a lot of fabric here, so I gotta try this on and see how much I need to either cut off or roll under for the hem. I think I made it a little extra too long. So neckline, sleeves, hem. Oh, and I may make a belt for the waist. We'll see. Wish me luck, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Well, hey guys, good morning. It's the next morning, and we got the finishing touches on the dress. Now, it is inside out right now, so let's take a peek. Okay, so we got the seam binding around the neck. We got elastic in there. And then remember, I said I was going to try on the dress to check the length of the sleeves. Turns out they were just barely long enough. So instead of rolling the sleeve fabric to form the casing for the elastic, I ended up doing the exact same thing I did on the neckline and put some more seam binding on there. Yeah, it took a little while, but it totally works. And then I didn't have to use precious sleeve fabric to make that elastic casing. So we've got elastic in the neck and in the sleeves, of course. You might notice I kind of went over some of the really nasty, ruffly seams with little zigzag stitching to try to keep the whole thing from raveling even further. I know there are way better ways to do that. Like serging would probably be the ideal way, but I don't have one of those, and I just felt like getting this done, so that's what I did for now. I did hem it, and then I did actually make a belt, which I'll show you in the next clip here. I just sewed two really long pieces of remnant fabric together and into a big tube and turned it right side out and stitched the ends closed. Sounds simple, took forever. As did getting the hem on this thing and such, so I think by the time I was done, it was pretty late in the evening, but I'm excited. This was really comfy when I tried it on, and I'm excited to try wearing this, so I'll have to show you what it looks like. Well, crafters, hope you guys enjoyed this project. You know, it is a pretty simple pattern, so it's fun to see all the ways that you could play with it. I've definitely done it in a couple different styles before trying this kind of cottagey inspired one, and it's a lot of fun. I've got to say, it definitely takes me a little more time than I always think it's going to. You know, easy pattern doesn't mean, oh yeah, I'll get it done in 2 hours. It always takes a little bit more time. But once you've done it once or twice, I feel like this pattern is pretty straightforward, so I would definitely recommend giving it a try. I gotta say, I've now put on a coat because it's a little chilly out here, but man, I'm loving this flannel. It's super comfy, and granted, it is a weirdly warm and nice day today, but yeah, I basically feel like I'm wearing a nightgown, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to embrace that aesthetic. So I don't know, is it cottage style? Is it a nightgown? Uh, Maybe it's a little bit of both. I don't know. I'm definitely enjoying it. It's a great day out here, so I think we're gonna go do a little bit of hiking and yeah, hit the trail a little bit. But if you guys found this video amusing, punch the like button to let me know and subscribe for more videos from Partners in Craft. I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.